Good afternoon, everyone. We can start without any further ado. I hope everybody's got their cups of tea, coffee, water. There is a coffee and tea stand on the right if anybody needs to grab a mug. It's a cold afternoon. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Lovely to see so many known faces and new faces. I'd like to, invite everybody for this next technical session. What the decade of JAM has achieved for women, challenges and way ahead. JAM as an acronym is something that we'll all get to know about today, if we didn't know earlier. For this, inviting on stage our panelists for today, Dr. Pawan Bakshi. He's the India Lead Inclusive Financial Systems, BMGF. Arindam Gupta, Senior Director, Program Operations and Strategy, Grameen Foundation for Social Impact. Please welcome everybody with a round of applause as they join us on the stage. Mr. Akhand Jyoti Tiwari, Partner, Microsafe Consulting. Kalpana Ajayan, Regional Head, South Asia, Women's World Banking. Kalyanaraman A, Chief Executive Officer, Varashakti Housing Finance Private Limited. Thank you so much, panelists, for joining us. A big round of applause for everybody, please. And our session will be moderated by Saurabh Singh. He's Senior Project Manager, Grameen Foundation for Social Impact. And we look forward to him provoking us and engaging us and having us hooked before we break for lunch. Welcome, everybody, and handing over to Saurabh now.
Good morning, everyone. Warm welcome on this very cold afternoon in Delhi. So I would like to start with, as she said, what is JAM? Janadhar account, Jandan account, Aadhaar, and mobile. This trinity has fostered the financial inclusion in India faster than it ever happened. So I'll give you the some numbers to give you an idea of what we have achieved in the last 1 decade. India has opened 53 crore of 530 million bank accounts under Jandan Yojana. We have 1.15 billion of Aadhaar accounts. 1.38 billion of Aadhaar accounts. And India has, based on different estimate, we can safely assume around 900 million of smartphone out of 900 million phone, out of which around 80% are smartphone. So this is what we have achieved in last 10 years. So now I would actually ask my panel members, and I'll provoke them on saying, so we want to split 3 things. First, what Aadhaar has achieved so far, what are challenges, and what are way forward. So our questions will be around these 3 themes. So first, I would like to ask every panel member one question. What, according to you, JAM has achieved in the last 10 years, and how, and especially for women, and how your present project and portfolio are helping women using the Aadhaar. So I would like to start with Pawan. Yes, heavy lifting for you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Good morning. And thanks, Saurabh. So JAM is a unique thing which India encountered, about a decade ago, and what we've seen is that it along with the digital public infrastructure that India has gone and created, and although Aadhaar is a part of that, then in spite of that, along with the other things, it's changed a lot of things. So, as an example, a lot of people would not have been onboarded into the ecosystem of formal finance is because the KYC itself was so expensive, right? If you realize 10 years ago, and any of you who applied for either a bank account or a SIM card, we had to work on a form. It was in triplicate. It needed to get scanned and stored and everything else around it. That cost about $10 a person, right? At that cost, nobody was even profitable, and the financial ecosystem would not onboard them, right? Same with the telcos, that it was tough to really go and reach the last mile. But then came in Aadhaar, and we realized that the cost drops from $10 to about 10 cents. And at 10 cents, everyone's profitable, right? So I think that's one key aspect of what this has gone and changed. The other thing is, if you talk about the mobiles, now you said about 900 million phones there. If you look back to the history, and I come from that ecosystem, what we've seen is that the reduction in cost and the utility of the phone has led to an explosion of its usage, right? So there was a time in '95 when the phones were initially launched, and my boss got one. He was an SVP in a large organization. He had the phone in his hand and said, "Who do I call? Who else has the phone?" Right? And I think that answer was that he ensured, yeah, you know, it's a ringing of the cash till, right? So my old job. So and due to that, we all got a phone because now he had somebody to call to, right? And we got extra work. But all that's all said and done, I think it's been a journey. It's been a huge journey, and I'll tell you that the other thing which happened in Aadhaar, specifically on the gender case, when Aadhaar enrollment started, and the government started to ask people to add their phone numbers into Aadhaar, everybody was a bit iffy that should we or shouldn't we, and what will it lead to, and stuff like that. So most of the women I know who we've gone and seen our work on the ground gave the phone numbers of their husbands or their fathers or their brothers, right, into Aadhaar. And then when that Aadhaar got seeded in a bank account, the alerts started to come on that phone. So when the women got a bank account, she got alerts of her balances or transactions on the phone. So one of the things which we've seen happening at India Post Payment Bank now is women coming there to change the phone number from her father's or brother's to her own, because she doesn't want them to know how much transaction that she's doing. Now that's very empowering, right? And it gives her agency and control of her money, right? So that's what we guys are learning about now, saying how Aadhaar and the mobile phone and the bank account all together have improved agency and control of our money. And we've also seen some research which happened in MP a couple of years ago, that when a woman got a bank account, we saw that when she got a bank account and she learned how to use the bank account, she joined the labor force. Which means that if she has agency and control on the money, she's more likely to be in the labor force to earn as well. So I think it's been hugely empowering, and I'm going to stop there.
Yeah. Thank you. Arindam?
Hi, very good afternoon to all of you. So carrying on from what Pawan said just now, and so financial inclusion is not something new that we are doing in India. We have been doing it for the donkey's years. But what changed actually is this trinity coming together, which helped the process, brought down the cost, as Pawan mentioned, from $10 to 10 cents. And I agree to it very much, because we have together worked also in certain projects where we found it difficult to get the accounts opened, right? But then what this has done is that this has actually made our system, our ecosystem, truly inclusive, which has helped the accounts to get opened, even for the women. Because so far, before that, because of the cost of acquisition being so high, generally there was not a preference of opening a women account which would perhaps not be transacted ever or not get a balance ever. So it has actually made the system truly inclusive. And one more thing that has brought in is interoperability, which has brought the ease of transaction. So earlier, what used to happen is that even if you open an account, you were not sure whether you will be able to transact it, because there is no bank branch near you. You cannot travel 40 kilometers to just do a transaction. It's not viable for the customer as well. So Aadhaar and mobile coming together along with the Jan Dhan account has made interoperability possible. So you can just go to the nearest BC point or nearest bank branch and do a biometric authenticated transaction, which has actually revolutionized the mindset of people. Now they can save fearlessly. Earlier, when we used to go into the field, you remember that people used to ask, okay, I'll put my money, but where can I get my money out from? That was one major thing. Now, as we progress, we have seen that a lot of transactions taking place on this particular rail. And like Pawan mentioned, that earlier when the Aadhaar was seeded with the mobile number, they used to have their parents or brother or husband's mobile number get into the Aadhaar. And then we carried out some studies and we found that this leads to a lot of financial abuse. It is not only about knowing what the amount is there in that women account or what is the transaction they're going, but we have seen cases where we can term it as financial abuse, because after the money was extracted forcefully, sometimes they're coerced into making some expenditure which they were not ready to do. So the change came in with the ease of access to mobile phone, where you change the mobile number to your own mobile number. Like in case of India Post is just an example. Everywhere we are seeing that. So that has given more control and more agency of the money that she is saving. She is now fearlessly saving because she knows that her money is safe with the bank. She can take it out using the Aadhaar and the mobile number at any given point of time from any BC which is locally present. She need not travel 40-50 kilometer. And the financial abuse have been cut down considerably. That's all from my side that we can add.
This is on, right? I'm audible, right? So, thank you, Pawan, and okay. Is it better now? Okay, thank you, Pawan and Arindam. For me, when Jam started in 2015, or all of these things, these three things came together, one thing which started changing was the way DBT, or direct benefit transfers, were happening in India. Of course, the frequency was outpaced, they were quick transfers, and we all saw, how it helped Indians when COVID stuck, and there were a lot of money which was transferred through these accounts. But I'll touch upon a different aspect here. So we did this study a couple of years ago, where we asked women on how direct benefit transfers and the money in their accounts have been changing their lives. And I have 3 data points that I want to talk about. So one is reduced emotional stress. That's not just on the respondent or the woman herself, but overall at the family level. Almost 40% of them said that they have now reduced emotional stress. Around 60% of them said that they have more financial independence now. And around 40% again said that they have more arguments on how to take or where to invest money now within the households. Now, why I've picked these 3 data points only and not the others, there are various others too, because somewhere I think Jam is the reason why the social fabric might be changing in India, and perhaps changing for good, because the agency for a lot of women that we have been thinking about has been changing, or has started to change when these things started happening. And all these instances where they now want their own privacy, and they want the ID on their names, because and account independence, they're all reasons for this. So that's one. Another point that I would like to highlight is this entire discussion on account activity. In 2015, when PMJDY accounts were there, the average balance on these accounts were INR 1,000, which is approximately USD less than 20, I guess 15. Those balances currently, as of August 2024, they are INR 4,000 plus, approximately USD 50. These balances have grown over time, and in last 5 years they have grown even further, which also shows that the way an household or the account owners have been using PMJDY has also changed for good, I would say, because the deposits have been increasing and it has stayed consistent. It's not like there have been high ups and downs. Of course, there is this angle of zero, how many accounts have zero balances, etc. So we can talk about it, and that's again, one of the questions which Saurabh would perhaps ask us. But it's a very encouraging phenomena, where a lot of this money was going into informal mechanisms, but now it's sitting into these formal bank accounts, which we can clearly see has also triggered some changes in the credit ecosystem too. So Mudra for last 5 years have grown with a CGIR of 9.8%. We are not saying that all of this has happened because of these PMJDY accounts, but much of this has happened because of PMJDY accounts. There are these balances. These accounts can show account history, a balance in their accounts, and definitely it has a bearing on how they are accessing credit. So I mean, for me, there are a lot of positives, a lot of social changes which has happened because of JAM, and perhaps I guess we would like to just see how it evolves further.
Yeah, I think I'm audible. Good afternoon, and it's wonderful to be in this panel. For me, as far as the JAM Trinity goes, and thanks to the Gates Foundation, we have worked with close to about 50 odd million Jan Dhan accounts across 3 public sector banks and 43 regional rural banks. And our biggest learning in these last few years, working with the Jan Dhan accounts, has been not just this being, and I kind of reiterate the point that the panelists have made earlier as well, is not just about the physical account being there, but equally the agency that the woman has because the account is in her name. The ability, the point that you made, which is the arguments in the house, I quite like that. In Women's World Banking, we follow the Mata Chen model for measuring, the empowerment, of women. And there is the material change, which of course is, the actual balance being in the account. There is the whole cognitive change, how she views herself as being empowered. The third piece is an interesting one, which is perceptual, how she sees herself in relation to the others. And the last bit is actually having a voice in the family to contribute towards the decision making in the house. Savings account is the absolute basic, the element, the unit, so to speak of, from participation along with, I would say, payments. Right? Payments and savings are such powerful vehicles for a woman to participate in the formal financial system. And the JAM Trinity really has been instrumental with 55% of the overall Jan Dhan accounts of 55 crores. We're talking about 28 odd crore accounts of women Jan Dhan account holders. So one is this whole sense of identity and all of that. The second piece for us when we were actually doing the research is that the Aadhaar and the Jan Dhan account is actually the pathway for us for the people in the ecosystem to actually also allow her to have more access to other kinds of resilience products, which are the most relevant to her. Given the reality today of, I'm talking about the PMJJBY, SBY, the micro insurance, the micro pension products. And our work at the ground shows that not just in India, but globally as well, women are twice, more responsive when it comes to actually insurance. So contrary to the belief that women are actually risk averse, she's actually very much risk aware. The language around women needs to be a little more, it's got to be a more careful way in which we describe. She is very much risk aware. And so these kind of products, when we are actually doing the work at the ground level in these Jan Dhan accounts with the public sector banks and the regional rural bank, women are very, very happy to understand about the micro insurance and micro pension because A, it is affordable, it is relevant to her, and more importantly, it is available to her where she needs it and how she needs it. And here I'm talking about the whole last mile banking, which all of us are aware, the whole banking correspondent, the banking correspondent, Sakhi channel, etc. So Jan Dhan, the whole DPI, along with the phygital means of delivering the relevant services, I think has been the game changer. So not just JAM, but JAM is just the rail. The ability for the government and the vision of the government to actually layer on it the kind of products that are relevant for the women, I think has been the game changer, in the last few years. The second point, of course, is that are all the solutions, like for instance, the Jandan, etc., the woman is not even a lot of times even aware that she has an account in her name, the point that Pawan made earlier, which is, somebody has opened the account and has the husband's name, husband's phone number, and it has her name, and oftentimes she's not even aware. So there's a lot more, and I know, Saurabh, you're going to get into that into the next part in terms of just the awareness around what it does for the women. I think we still have some ways to go, but I think enough's been said over yesterday and today in terms of the whole access piece. What JAM has done for us in the last 7 years, if not for the JAM, would have been a 55-year story. I think we have enough data around it. So I think nobody can argue about what it has done as far as access in this country goes. Yeah, thank you.
Good afternoon all, and good afternoon my panelists. So basically I'm a banker when compared to the my job in terms of when I joined in a public sector bank in 88 to till date, I'm into the finance field, and basically I'm an agriculturist also, agriculture graduate. So started my career in a rural area and then started moving. What I just look at it from the JAM, apart from whatever all we discussed. In the year 1988 to even 2005, 6 and all, even the bank account opening and getting a number and the welcome kit delivered or any passbook delivered, it will take minimum 60 days, 45 to 60 days. The anxiety levels will be whether when I will be getting the passbooks or when I will be getting the account statement or whatever it is. Now, during in the face of whatever we have gone through all these things, what we find is there are three things which always have a competition. One is affordability. Number two is accessibility. Third A is arbitration. So the human mind always works on if it is accessible, whether it is affordable, and where I can do the arbitration. Say today, JAM has enabled a platform where Aadhaar creates identity. The creation of identity has given a bank account, and the technology platform along with JAM, what you call it can be ITES, IT or IoT, all these things put together, it has taken up the platform to a very high extent. For example, the account opening has been made very simple. Today, by morning 10 o'clock, we can open an account. By 11 o'clock, we can download the app, and then 11:15, we can start the transactions. To such an extent, the platform has helped each and every individual. Say, as a banker, I don't look at gender, because end of the day, any human being should have the rights to enjoy whatever the benefits available to any other person. So it should be made available in such a way. It should be made simple also. So the accessibility part has been made very simple. Now comes the affordability. If you look at JAM in terms of Jandan account, Aadhaar and mobile, it is something like a carbon compound. It has 4 arms. Jandan is linked to, Aadhaar is linked to Jandan, Aadhaar is linked to mobile, then Jandan is linked to mobile. Now, from the perspective of an individual, the empowerment comes only through financial part in terms of the transaction enabling as well as the facilities. Whatever it is, you call it as a payday check or buy today, pay tomorrow, or whatever you call it. Or else, even a sugarcane farmer, he wants an overdraft facility. So that account has to be active in terms of availing the facility on an immediate basis. So now what has happened is, this accessibility has opened a lot of accounts. Second thing, the Jandan accounts are now linked to account aggregator. The account aggregator is able to tell whether the transactions are going good in an account, what is the surrogate data available for a customer, and credit bureaus are able to get a lot of insights into the credit culture of that individual. Then, if you look at DigiLocker, it helps in terms of the document signing, which has become a digital part. Then transactions. The mobile is linked to whatever Google Pay or whatever pay it is, and it is linked to the accounts and RuPay cards. Now what happens is, mobile is the money now. There is no need for us to carry the money, no need for a wallet, and only the mobile is the thing where anybody can go and do the transaction. Even a flower vendor or a pull cart, everyone is having a QR code. So now JAM has changed the entire social fabric, and now comes the private players have come into the play. Microfinance institutions, NBFCs, banks, everyone now started running on the platform to provide the credit needs of the customers, banking needs of the customers. So with this, just to like to.
So I think in the first round of questioning, we can establish a couple of facts, a couple of things. First, as taking Pawan, it has Pawan in a country yours, that they have given agency to the women. Second, access to the women, and third is affordability. So these three things coming together is bringing more and more women into the formal financial sector. And now my thing is, we've discussed what JAM has achieved. Now let's discuss challenges in this round. And I have a very specific question for everyone. Kalpana, starting with you. Do you see any digital divide or any, in your studies or in your work, have you came across any digital divide which is hampering the women, the faster onboarding of women into the formal financial sector? So that's for you.
No, most definitely. I think there's enough data that GSMA has published. And here I refer to the ownership of phones and access to internet. Both are very important when you have to enter the into the digital financial system. India has a fantastic digital public infrastructure, which has provided the railroad. But for me, as a woman, to participate, I need to have a phone and I need to have an access to internet. The gender divide is very, very clear. One of the things, just like how we are looking at account ownership from, the whole thinking around account ownership from a household level to an individual level, I think we need to look at phone ownership from a household level to an individual level. Unless we do that, everybody just assumes, yeah, there's a phone in the household and, it can happen. But that's not what a woman wants. We were talking about confidentiality. She does not want anybody else to know how much she's saving and what she's saving, etc. So phone ownership is a very important one, and equally the access to internet. The second point, of course, in terms of the what comes in the way of her participation, of course, is what we call a digital financial capability. It's not just about knowledge and skills, but it is equally about the confidence and the trust that you need to engender in the formal financial system. Now, so the woman's context and barriers, as we know, is distinctly different. And so how do you actually engender this trust and confidence? You can provide her with, literacy and just by sending a WhatsApp campaign in terms of UPI safety rules, you're not going to achieve that. She actually needs someone at the ground level, somebody that she trusts in the system, preferably from her ecosystem, and somebody that she looks up to, actually help her on board, maybe do the hand-holding for some time. I'm very conscious. All the solutions that we need to design also has to be commercially viable. So the point is that our research has shown, and we recently did this work with NPCI, and we came out with a report called UPI for Her. We established this opportunity size of 200 million women that have smartphone and access to internet, but are still not participating in the formal financial system. And what we found out is that she doesn't need hand-holding for a very long period of time. The magic number actually was 5. If within the 1 week, she's able to do 5 transactions, she's actually all set. She doesn't need you and me after that. So you need to actually design solutions knowing her context and her barriers. And the minute that you're able to do and leverage the ecosystem, so a phygital mode, I know it's very cliched, but that is the reality. Digital is not the only way. You need to have a phygital mode. And the point is that it is a win-win, because who are the people that are going to actually enable this phygital, this physical onboarding are women who are desperate in need of livelihoods. So it is a win-win. So she is as much invested in ensuring, and I would say the ability of the organizations, the providers that are there at the ground level. How do we ensure that we actually measure what is relevant? Are we just looking at onboarding? Are we looking at usage? Are we looking at transaction size? What are the metrics that are relevant? Our work with NPCI involved 3 such fintech companies: MobiKwik, PhonePe, and Spice Money. And you would think that this is actually quite intuitive, but it isn't. What the ground level is being measured on is onboarding. When we had a conversation with PhonePe, they said, "Oh, we are in tier 2 and tier 3." But that is women that are businesses that are on high street. Most women are not on high street.
Yeah.
They are operating from homes, right? So that in terms of discoverability of women, the awareness of the woman to say that these are the products that are available, and ensuring we use the ecosystem to actually help her on board and overcome her barriers, her fears, her very real fears. I think these are important steps.
Yeah. Thank you. So I think this is a very good, that I like the magic number 5 transaction. If you can do, she doesn't need it. She's actually on the digital rail. So now one question from Akhand sir and Pawan. I want to know, start from you. So GEM has done pretty well in India, but can you tell some global example, because foundation works globally? So anything where because no country has the population like India that they can have that scale. But is there any program globally that is doing much better in terms of quality of the outcome? I'm not on the scale, the quality of outcome.
Yeah, thanks. So each country has its own way of doing things, right? So India identified the opening of the bank account. If you look at example of Kenya, it's not a bank account led. It's M-Pesa, which is on the mobile phone, but there are other countries doing it. Some countries have ID systems, but it may not be digital. Phones are there. I think it's a process. It's an evolution. India started it off as an experiment to see if it works, and it has worked. What India was able to do in the G20, as an example, is establish the impact of DPI in its declaration, which is now being looked at by other countries as well. So it's a process. Has any other country got jammed? The answer is no. But are the other countries also empowering women by doing the other things? Of course, yes. Every country has its own way of doing it. So I don't think that we should be comparing the two countries. What we should be comparing is indicators which say what is the level of empowerment or access or usage by women and others in these ecosystems, right? And I think that's where, if you see, while India has about 80% access of accounts, and there is no gap in the gender thing in terms of access, but there's a huge gap in usage. Right? There are other countries where this gap is either lesser or more, again depending on the space of the country. So I think those are the important indicators to try and capture, instead of looking at have they got that infrastructure in place to be able to do it, because every country will have a different way of doing it. Yeah.
Akhand sir, yeah.
Thanks. As Pawan rightly said, we cannot compare different countries. There are different contexts. Perhaps there could be some good practices. But again, I mean, you can't just apply all of those to, let's say Indian context. I'll give you some examples although. So in Bangladesh, and it's a contentious country to pick right now, but the MFS agents, which are called the mobile money agents, or they are everywhere. I mean, go to any alley, main road, service road, anywhere, they are just there. Within 50 meters, you'll find one. Now that you can think or portray as a really great situation or ecosystem to be in, because you go anywhere, you have an agent where you could do a financial transaction. We'll have to see for ourselves what's the right number of agents that we should be looking at. And Pawan and us have been, in fact, deliberating about it. That is there a magic number? Is there a framework which we can perhaps, in fact, use to identify the right number of agents? Because here in India, we are not talking about, let's say, one or two categories of agents. Here, there are like at least 4 different categories of agents. India Post GDSs are different, payment bank agents are different, traditional banking agents are different, and then there are new age banking agents. Another example, in various African countries where agent banking is prominent and they are running it successfully, relatively, they have a very different branch or agent management structure. Every branch has a agent banking officer. In India, banks do not manage it this way, and we work with many banks, all of us on various projects. They have a centralized agent management structure in most instances, and the local liaison between a branch and an agent could be there in very few instances. So, for example, is that a good practice? I don't know, but yeah, definitely something that we could learn from. So I just wanted to highlight these 2 examples to show that, you know, perhaps this is not worth as much comparison, but there are certainly good lessons that we can pick on. But I wanted to pick on what Kalpana was also talking about, and Pawan did say about access and usage. We randomly picked 6 villages in India and did a census sort of data collection there. So we interviewed every adult who was there in that village. And our findings were that there were 10% of individuals or adults who were using more than one financial service based on the bank account that they would have. And more than one means they would have an insurance, perhaps, of course, there is a saving, they could have a credit, they could have a credit card. So there will be more services beyond a bank account. And then, of course, there were 10% who did not have a bank account. There were 15% who had a bank account, but they were not using it. So the rest, 75%, they were just using one service or at max 2 services. They were not using many other services. And the other service, in most instances, was the PMJJBY and SBY, which sort of comes along with the package. Now, this situation, and these were randomly picked 6 villages, close to 2,500 of individuals we spoke with across India, does give us an indication on where we should be focusing or where the gap is. There is an account, and the account is not used that much, and we will all deliberate. We have been deliberating that we know where the gaps are, and perhaps we'll talk about it soon. But that's one area that we definitely need to take care of.
Arindam, next question is to you. Very specific question. Akhand just talked about right number of agent, because the more number of agents increase, enable, like nobody's profitable in the ecosystem. So because you're part of you're running this with the support of foundation about the project of agent viability, what's the magic number for India?
So you don't have a magic number for India, because what we see is that if you see the population to the agents, it may not be significant enough. But then given the length and the breadth of the country, there are huge pockets which are having a large concentration, and then there are dark spots where you do not have any agent present there. So typically when we started the business in even the pre-jam days and all, and typically as a banker, what we used to do is 1 agent per 1,000 population. That's what we started off with. But eventually there has been a lot of evolution in it. There are bank agnostic BCs coming in, so that the initial calculation with a probability of cross-sell showed that 1 agent per 1,000 may become viable. But eventually what happened is there are a lot of cluttering in the space where there are corridors. So if I take a step back, why there is a concentration? There are corridors in India where there is a lot of transit in terms of migrant laborers moving out, and then the financials or the earnings coming in into those pockets. So if we look at that, there is a huge concentration in those particular corridors like UP, Bihar, having the cash out points more, and Delhi, Mumbai, the metros are having more cash in points and all. So again, so far, these agents are placed basis the cash in, cash out only. Now with JAM having so much of transaction volume, perhaps we are ready for the next level where these agents are placed not basis the cash in, cash out, but as an omni-channel, where anything and everything deliverable into the rural India or into the unserved community or underserved community, the agent can be the only point of contact or only point of delivery. So when I say omni-channel, there is a huge labor force, agri labor force, and the majority is women. And they are not, forget about title of the land or the control over the produce. They are not even recognized as a labor force in the agri channel. Now with their account, they already have their account. They have an agency of their earning. And now if the agent point starts to work as an omni-channel for input purchase or output sell, that would create a huge impact on these women who are now just, you say they're a ghost labor. Nobody identifies them. Nobody looks at them. But that's the measure. More than 50% of the workforce in agriculture are women. So perhaps we cannot say that this is the magic number of agent that we have. We started off with 1,000 population for one agent. But as we say, there is a huge clutter in
We are still
particular
right-sizing
corridors.
that. We are still right-sizing that.
Yeah,
So
we're
yeah,
still right-sizing that.
yeah. So-
But to make it viable, I think we need to add more products and look beyond only financial services.
Thank you. Kalyan sir, I have a very specific question from you in this sense. Has this JAM Trinity made it easier for a women to access housing loan from your organization?
Yes. In Varashakti, if you look at it from the date of start, what we have done is we have taken family as a unit. We don't consider the male member, though legally the land may be in the name of the male member. But what we have done is, say in any empowerment program, account opening is fine. And as we were discussing, only 3,000, 4,000 rupees is the balance. But where do they create the assets? The asset created in the individual's names, either it's a women or a man or whoever may be the person. The asset creation only will give the empowerment. Say, for example, I have this much amount of money in my bank account. That gives me empowerment. Gold, it's an empowerment. Similarly, if you look at it, I have an FD, it gives an empowerment. Similarly, housing is an empowerment, rather. So what we look at it, family as a unit, and we do wealth creation counseling first with the family members. That is more important. We used to sit with them. We used to give them the flow chart in terms of cash flows, from where they are getting the money. All the family members, not that say like only the male member. Male member may be an auto driver, or say like female member may be having 4 milk cows. Son may be studying, daughter may be working in a college or something like that. All put together, we take the credit bureaus reports as well as their cash flows and provide them a counseling where thereby the asset creation over a period of time, because housing loans are somewhere between 8 to 12 years of asset. But at the end of the day, once the capital asset is formed, it becomes a long-term investment for them. And everyone should know in the family, it gives empowerment to the entire family members. There are roles, there are responsibilities to all the entire members.
I think that's a very good point, that you moving to financial counseling, financial literacy. So I think that completes the whole perspective. Now, family's part of it, and then of course the women will take the front of it. So I have like, sorry, the time is ticking. So I have like, we have a decade of JAM. So
last comments, quick 2 minutes sort of statements I want from you. We have 1 decade. In next decade, if we are still in this sector and we're sitting here, what recommendation would you make for this to be so that we move from access to more enrichment, agency building? So quick, one by one. Yes, 2 minutes, one minutes for
Yeah.
each one.
So basically, what the entire family requires is a digital literacy. So we used to conduct every month per branch, there is a literacy program where we will go to the village, not at the branch level, we go to the village and we bring women as well as men members into the program. We not only take financial literacy, rather it is a digital literacy. We cover savings, deposits, then say like insurance also, and we give them what is the wealth creation, how it has to be managed well in terms of a long-term investment, so that the entire household become fulfilled, and then they have to do number one. Number two, from the bank's perspective, as one of our panelists was telling, there should be some sort of a exclusive person in a rural semi-urban branch where they would like to take up this digital literacy component very seriously in terms of reaching the households and then making them aware, even the cyber security part also. During our financial inclusion, that is digital awareness camp, we used to tell them about don't click unnecessary buttons in terms of say like some links are coming to our SMS, WhatsApp and all that. Don't do that unless and until it's very much required. So that type of messages should go in a long way in terms of building, because say like cyber security is not a one-time measure. It should be on an onward going process. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So, so cybersecurity is something that you push for next decade. Yeah, Kalp.
Yeah, I just have one. If you were to look at the Reserve Bank of India index on inclusion, right? The access piece and the usage piece. The usage piece consists of 5 products. It consists of payments, savings, credit, insurance, and pension. Now, and all 5 are relevant, all of 5 are very critical when it comes to actually ensuring that whatever the digital public infrastructure has been created is indeed actually delivering what it's supposed to do, which is the usage piece. But unless I have a gender disaggregated way of looking at it, I will never be able to solve the case of the women. What gets measured gets done. So, this gender disaggregated data as far as usage is concerned is something that we've been working with the regulator. I think that can make a significant difference.
Yeah. So I'll take a minute, not more than that. Yeah, see. So, but a major part of this 1 minute is going to be some numbers. So we spoke to some individuals and we asked them, what they would do if they faced a financial fraud or a situation where there is a grievance management needed. 61% said they don't know what to do. 19% said that they will not do anything. So 80% of the respondents, they will not react to how they would treat a financial fraud or a grievance situation. 20% of them said, yes, we do. We either reach to an officer or call center, 3-4 options. Out of those 20%, 60% of grievance cases were not taken to the next level because they all had incomplete information. Which now, I'm just tying all of these pieces together. There is a big gap in this entire grievance resolution management, and much of this is coming from aspirational districts and aspirational blocks program where we are working in. So tier 3, tier 2, tier 5, tier 6 cities, there is a huge gap in how grievances are being managed, trust issues are being managed, and this is where I think we'll need to focus more on. Perhaps products and trust and account usage will be addressed as well. Thank you.
Yeah. So if I pick up from what Kalpana said, there are 5 products and that is the focus as per the regulators are concerned, and we do not have much of a gender disaggregated data. So for me, JAM has achieved what it was meant for. Now we need to move to the next level where using the huge data that we have, why these 5 products are not taking off or whether we can innovate a new product, use the transaction data and design a product which is required for the target customer group. More of use the data intelligence to build on new products. It's not that you sell a 5,000 insurance in urban area with a premium of 5,000 and you just make it 2,000 in the rural area. It doesn't work like that, right? So probably Jam has created a huge database on which we need to ride. We need to use the data intelligence and create new sets of product, which is required by this aspirational district, the rural aspirants, as we may call it, because all our fintech innovations are also revolving around the urban aspirants. So probably we need to use the data insights to create a new niche category of fintechs or other financial product owners who can design a particular product which is actually required in the ground. For example, maybe a sachet insurance, insurance in Northeast where malaria is prevalent, a vector-borne disease insurance would work. It's no point selling a 10,000 rupees premium insurance, right? So probably using the data for new product innovation, that is what I'm looking at in the next decade. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to talk about it slightly differently, right? I think it'll be a disaster if we are here after 10 years and we talk about the same things. So this is absolutely, yeah, it'll be a complete disaster. But I do think that what I would love to see here after 10 years to talk about is how we've moved from access to income increases to resilience and to prosperity. That's the vision. But I don't think it'll happen unless the industry and the ecosystem here comes in together to address that. And I think what I'm pushing for is for all people to start to look at a double bottom line. It's not just about profitability, which you should focus on because it needs to be sustainable. But I think it's also about the impact that you're going to have on the people on the ground, on the women on the field, how they move in their journey from access to usage to income increases, to resilience, and then on to prosperity. That's the key, the journey that we need to start off with. And it starts here in this room with all of us trying to understand it better, that what do we need to do to ensure this happens.
Thank you, Pawan. This is exactly what I was referring. Somebody should counter me on that we shouldn't be there discussing the same thing. Yeah, so you picked up that. So I think we decided that in next 10 years, the thing that you should be working on more and more financial literacy, more and more right pricing, using transaction data to create new products, because these transactions creating wealth of data that can be used for customizing product for the women and for the rural areas. And then what you said, just don't focus on one. Focus on, have a holistic perspective that you make money, you're profitable, you are getting more and more viable solutions, and your partner is having more and more scale. So I think that sums up our point. We can take a couple of questions. Yeah, we have
2 questions at best.
2 questions. We
Offline.
can take.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, panel, for the great insights. I'm Nirmala from Women's World Banking. Yesterday, we heard Mr. HR Khan talk about it. We have seen Jam in the last decade, and it's going to be the next decade is going to be Jam and UU Pentagon, which is Jam, UPI, and ULI. So, any high-level thoughts on how that would change the face of financial inclusion for the country? Anybody in the panel, but maybe except Kalpana, because I can catch up with her anytime.
Gosh, I thought it was aimed at her. So yeah, so yes. So what India started doing already is generating a lot of data exhaust from the Jam and UPI, right? Which has given birth to the ULI, right? Obviously, that's not the end of it. What you're seeing is all the other DPIs emerging as well. So the account aggregator ecosystem, Honest, ONDC, all of those will generate a lot more data exhaust, right? So I think what we are looking at a space with the personal data protection law in place now, although we are still awaiting operational, the guidelines. You will see a lot more data being used for customization of experiences of products and services for individuals and families. I think that's going to change a lot of work in the ecosystem as we, as an example, the MFI industry has been, kind of are doing the same thing for the last 25 years. It's been group lending. I think we are seeing now signs of stress happening. I think we are on the verge of change. And this change will will start being, kind of visible in a few weeks, months from now on. And that change is what will drive more change, as I see it.
Last question. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Somebody pass her the mic.
Hi, I'm Kripa from Sampark. So yeah, my question is, it's been amazing that it's 10 years of Jam, and we're doing, yesterday there was a scorecard of how the accounts are performing, and it's been 7.5 was the scoring given, and 2.5 is going to be the tough task of reaching out to the remote areas, remote locations, reaching out to the women. It's amazing that the focus is coming there, because as the leader of the project, which I do in UP in Varanasi, where we work with about 15 villages in Chiraigaon block, 9 years ago, women were hesitant to get to bank. Like, I had to send my field officer to their house to go say, take them in your bike, make them sit in your scooter, and take them to the bank. Today, I just need to make a call, go and withdraw your money, your loan has come to your account. And the women would go. So women are coming out of these, right? They are ready to go to bank, they're ready to go to visit, their access, as what you're talking about, the access is there, they're able to reach out, but women still don't go. Because we see many other different challenges of the fear of how the manager would treat me. He doesn't talk to me properly. My questions are not answered. When we are thinking out of this out-of-the-box thinking for every bank to reach out to this 2.5% of the people, I think it needs to start at a very small level of including data parameters as what ma'am said about the usage, the frequency of visit to the bank of a woman. If an account holder visits the bank 10 times and the bank is analyzing that data as to, our bank, the women come to the banks more often or more, lesser.
Can you just ask the question, and because we are running short?
Yeah, because then it kind of brings the problem into the forefront. Then you know why women are visiting less to the banks. Then you can make the people responsible to kind of answer to that. So the data out of the box thinking has to happen to kind of capture these. How do you capture this is a big level thinking, I understand. But these are the areas where we need to, instead of, I feel, focus on products or anything of that sort. If you can throw light on that, yeah.
Where this segment of customer, the SAG ladies, JLG ladies, or including farmers, we don't find an exclusive person to address them and attend their queries, make them much more understand about the banking and everything. That maybe look into the future way. An exclusive person, not only for HNI or NRI, and our rural ladies, rural customer also should be looked in equal way.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, that moving from like a transaction to a relationship-based approach, even for this sort of underserved and this rural customers. I think that's a good point. That summarizes our panel. So, if you have any question, you can please talk to them offline. And we have our Grameen, whatever work that we do at Grameen, we have put a brochure at the back. So if you want, please feel free to grab and talk to our team about what we do. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Saurabh, for coordinating that jam. That was very interesting indeed. I'd like to thank all our panelists and requesting our team to please present them with a token of our appreciation. We'll be breaking for lunch and coming back to this hall at 1:45 p.m. We'll try for 1:30, but I'm sure it's going to be 1:45. So let's try for 1:30. Fingers crossed. It's a nice sunny day outside. And many thanks once again. A big round of applause for our panelists here, please.
When it comes to access to finance for micro, small and medium enterprises.